speaking about atheism,
There is atheist.
I was an atheist,
Uh-huh.
and I could second everything that was said, that you said, and that you said. All the arguments, all the evolution came from a primate. You know, it's a vague life. Anyways, do you guys remember last time how I talked to you guys about loving one another? You guys remember that? So this falls under the same category. But it's love's counterpart. You know, kind of like yin and yang, good and evil, hate and love. But I want to talk about a certain characteristic of hate that I see so often. And it's putting down one another. Proclaiming yourself to be better than someone else based off your own, point of view. So first I want to share a verse from Romans chapter 3, verse 23. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So what does this imply? This implies that there is no greater or lesser sin between all of us except, of course, blaspheming the Holy Spirit. That's in Matthew. But this does imply that we do not have the right to put down other people because we put ourselves to be in a better position or say that I am a better person because I do this, when in reality there is something that you might do or I might do that is just as bad. Like, for example, I used to smoke weed, and I could look at someone else who smokes weed, and I do not any longer smoke weed, but I can't put him down because there's something that I still do that is just as bad. You know what I mean? You guys feel me? Okay. So this topic reminds me of in the Bible how Jesus had all of his encounters with the scribes and Pharisees, and the scribes were all about tradition and, being better. But in reality, it reminds me of a certain thing when they were asking Jesus, why don't your disciples wash their hands before they eat the bread? And Jesus said to them, in doing so, they were putting down the disciples and saying, I'm better because I wash my hands before I eat. But in reality, Jesus called them hypocrites. Jesus said that, that's not what it's about here. So, in which we shouldn't go down, we shouldn't be hypocrites putting down other people because in which we do the same exact thing, just in a different way. So we don't want to put ourselves in that same hypocritical position that is actually very harmful to our walk and very harmful to our relationship with God. Another verse comes to mind for it is not what enters the mouth that defiles the man, but what proceeds out of the mouth that defiles the man. And this includes a lot of things, gossiping, we're all teenagers here, right? Facebook, friends, boyfriend and girlfriend break up, I'll take a couple names like Ryan and Sarah, they just broke up, go put it on Facebook, oh, Ryan just broke up with Sarah, it was so drastic. Sarah cheated on Ryan, or Ryan cheated on Sarah, it's just, wow. But I mean, it doesn't apply to us as a Christian, something that we shouldn't do, as well as boasting or slandering. There's many examples of things that we should not say or put down one another because it does, in fact, harm us. And I realize that going on the topic of love, this can be replaced with one thing, that we can replace hate with love, with the love that we have and receive. Back to atheism. I realize that a lot of atheists, the reason why they do drift away from their walk, and a lot of times they might become victims of genetic fallacy to Christians, and it's because they don't receive love. They feel hated, or at least that's the way I felt as an atheist, and that's why I became atheist. But for everyone it's different. But this is another point I want to make for putting each other down, is that it can end up in really negative ways for other people. For example, suicide. Right now, in the United States, the 3 leading reasons for death in this country are drugs, suicide, and car crashes. I read online that bowlingstatistics.org that 4,400 deaths per year are caused by bullying, putting someone else down, You know, there's a lot of bullying examples. You know, give me your lunch money. Suicide, 4,400 deaths per year. For bullying only. For bullying only, and that doesn't it doesn't take away from, you know, family issues or, you know, depressive issues or anything else. Just bullying. So right now we live in a nation where kids and adults as well influence each other too negatively. You know, this is how gangs are created. This is how people come into doing drugs or smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol. You know, even when people try to conform into something and act like, you know, another person, like for example, I'll give you an example. You guys know what hipsters are?
Hipster.
Little bit.
A little bit?
Vague.
Okay.
I've never heard of them actually.
You want to trace that?
You guys need to see my clothes because I'm not wearing hipster clothes. But, okay, I'm not saying everyone who's wearing Toms here is a hipster. Who's wearing Toms? You're wearing Toms? Okay.
What's that?
So the generic hipster, okay, he's usually got, you know, some form of Android, iOS, or iPhone.
Okay.
Hipster, I almost said Hipstagram. Instagram.
That's a new app.
Yeah, he's got Toms, you know, usually jeans that cut off about right here. No, right here, Chance.
She's an ass.
She's a good example actually.
Some big glasses that aren't prescriptioned. Oh. Okay. Sorry. You know, some kind of shirt and an overtop they got from Goodwill. But basically, people, like when they suddenly conform into something, or you know, they get a certain hairstyle or some new clothes, like for example, those Obey clothes. A lot of kids are wearing those right now. Basically, they'll be like, "What is this poser doing? You know, this guy is like trying to be something he's not." And then after they get hated for that and they be themselves, they're still hated just as much. And it's just a never-ending cycle of hate. You know, the earliest example that I could find, and it doesn't really relate to putting down one another, but in a sense it kind of is. But you guys know Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
You guys know Cain and Abel. You guys know how Cain was a keeper of flocks and Abel was a ground tiller, and how Abel presented his offering to God, and Cain did too, but God had no regard for Cain's offering.
Mm-hmm.
This came to a jealous point, an angry point in Cain's life, and that's when he ended up killing his own brother. But in the same manner, not in a literal form, but in the same manner, when we are put in a position, in a hateful position, it can result in angry and hostile people, you know, like I said, gangs, you know, or what are they calling them now? Cliques, units, G unit, I don't know. You know, I overheard my teacher talking yesterday, my PE teacher. She was like, people in gangs are so stupid. You know, they represent their own hood and they, you know, protect it with their lives, but you're renting property. You don't own it. And then she was like, now there's some educated gangsters out here, you know, the ones that go to college and bang after they have money and buy some property and start selling drugs, and then they own, and then they can really, you know, say, you know, this is my hood. But anyways, I want to end with 2 verses in 2 Timothy, and then a story of my own. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 16 and 17. But avoid worldly and empty chatter, for it will lead to further ungodliness, and their talk will spread like gangrene. Among them are Hymenaeus and Philetus. So gangrene is cancer, if you didn't know that. And it really does spread like cancer. And this is going to go into my story. So back to when I was an atheist. I put myself down rather than being put down, and this affected my attitude towards others, putting them down. as well. So there was a specific band called Sophia's Hanging, if you know them, or now they're called Paradigm. They're the band I told you about with the upside down cross and the holy F shirt, you know. But still, that gives me no right to talk down upon them. But basically, the way it spread like cancer for me is I was putting myself down. So on Facebook, and by the way, you guys see my clothing again? They wear this, the same exact thing, except they have black hair, eyeliner, you know, they're gothic.
Oh.
Okay, so I called them vampires. I called them vampires, and it escalated.
Sparkle.
They weren't those kind of vampires. That's the new age Twilight vampires. But basically, I called them vampires, and it escalated into a lot of talking back to each other, fighting, you know, just stuff that spread like cancer. It started off really small, as you know, cancer does. For example, a cigarette smoker will smoke for 20 years. During that time, forms of cells will form wherever they form. It could be in your lungs or your brain. And then you just have this giant tumor. So that's what happened with me. I had this giant tumor, and I had no surgeon to take it out of me. So, you know, still to this day, I have problems with them, even though I apologized afterwards. Did I tell you guys how I played that show, and that's why I had to leave that one day really early? I played with them, actually. And I walked up to one of the people in the band. His name's Ariel. He plays the synthesizer and the keyboards. And I walked up to him and I was like, I just want to say to you that I am sorry, that I did not mean a single thing in my current state of mind now, because I've given my life to Christ. So I just want to end with that.